A very good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's live at the Waterhole. It's Sunday, and I hope you are all enjoying a lovely, relaxing day. And what better way to do it than to watch live feeds from all across southern and eastern Africa with us at live at the Waterhole, thanks to Africam and Wild Earth. My name is Ben Coley. I will be with you for the next 2 hours, and we will be watching these cameras with interest. We've started in East Africa, a nice cloudy day up at Oldonyo Lodge in Kenya, and we've got some helmeted guinea fowls fussing around in the background, and a nice big male warthog having a drink from what is quite a dried up waterhole at the moment. This is the first time I have done live at the waterhole for quite some time due to a very busy schedule, and I'm delighted to be back with all of you. If this is your first time joining us, you may be excited to know that this is live and interactive, so you never know what I might say or stumble over my words or say something I shouldn't. But we do invite and positively encourage you to send through any questions to me, any comments, anything you'd like to know about what we're watching or nature in Southern Africa in general, or anything else, to be quite honest. And I will do my absolute best to answer any and all questions and queries that come through. Lovely to see a warthog, one of my favourite animals out here, I must say. I know they have a terrible image that is portrayed thanks to things like The Lion King and the rather cruel tourism market that has dubbed them one of the alleged ugly five, which, in fairness, I suppose is understandable, but I think they're incredibly amazing animals. I think of them as little tanks that can travel about 50 kilometers an hour, incredibly strong, and I certainly would not want to mess with one of those. They are supremely powerful, and those big tusks, or tushes as they're also known, that you can see, the big curved one coming out from the upper lip, and then the shorter, straight, and razor sharp one on the bottom lip, are fearsome weapons not to be scoffed at. Now, I know this is a male. Well, for one reason, we just saw him showing his other end to us, which left no doubt. But even if you see a male from front on like this, there are ways to tell. So just the size in general, larger than females, more established tusks than in females, and the name warthog comes from those calloused areas of skin you can see just below the eyes, enlarged in males because they protect the eyes during fights with other males. And that secondary set of warts you can see halfway down the snout are absent in the females. It's an easy way to tell, even if you can't see the important bits, just by looking at the face of a warthog. We can sex it by looking at the warts. Just one set for females, two pairs for males. Melody Kenyon, a very good afternoon. Nice to hear from you again. Warties and guinea fowl on your best list. I also am quite partial to guinea fowl at the moment. I used to sort of scoff at them because they're quite common, but they're actually very entertaining to watch. The way they sort of waddle around and constantly doing things, chasing each other, particularly when you see the males chasing the females around, doing what we call their humpback display, when they sort of puff out all of their feathers, and they have this big arch in their back, and you can see them chasing the females around. It's quite a proud animal. Warthog has to hold that head quite high, the great big wedge-shaped heavy head. There's some very good strong muscles at the top of the neck. You can see how it sort of bulges above the neck. Big ball of muscle there, just like we see in things like kudu and the white rhino, to be able to hold those heavy heads high. But a nice windy day, and it'll be interesting to see whether we have quite the accumulation of game that we often do. In these windy conditions, you find a lot of herbivores will become a little bit more nervous, a little bit more jumpy. Apparently not this giraffe though. They'll stick to the thicker vegetation, A, to keep warm, but also just because they are slightly more nervous about predators. Bigger chance that predators will be active on a cool, overcast day like this, and the wind disturbs their ability to sense, two different spellings, to pick up scents, because the wind is blowing the smells in all sorts of crazy directions. And of course, your hearing is also compromised with the sound of the wind rushing across you and through the leaves and through the branches of the trees. Hello, Mercedes Bean. I'm glad you can also join us, wishing us all, including the Wild Earth crew. I have Tulu in my ear today, guiding us through these plethora of amazing cameras that we have. And a very happy Sunday to you as well, Mercedes Bean. And Harriet, a very good afternoon to you from a wintry cold Cape Town. Yes, South Africa has been rather cold the last couple of days. We even had a couple of drops of rain a couple of days ago, even here in the Lowveld. And there has been snow forecast across the country, or various places in the country. Unlikely that we will see any here in the Lowveld. And it hasn't actually been particularly cold. Having been at Mabula for a couple of weeks doing Safari Live last month, that was cold. I haven't had to deal with Waterberg temperatures for a while. We even had frost one morning, and I was wrapped up to the nines with multiple layers and buffs and beanies and gloves. But it was actually quite nice to feel the cold again. It doesn't bother me too much. See if this giraffe is a little more tentative than normal, which is normal for giraffes to be tentative with this strong wind blowing. It's a very vulnerable position when a giraffe bends down to have a drink. But I have to say, he looks quite relaxed, happily ruminating away. That suggests that he is quite comfortable, but having a good scan of the area, just in case any marauding predators are hiding close by. And this one at the back has got incredibly tufty little ossicones. A young male at the back. Had a little think. Better make doubly sure. It looks like we're going to assume the position. I always say it, but I'm fascinated by the amount of tension and stress that must go on those knee joints of the giraffe when they adopt that position. A big giraffe like that's pushing 1.5 tons and leaning forward, all the body weight going forward, all being braced against those knees. They must have incredibly strong tendons and ligaments to be able to sustain that. Debbie, do they take turns looking out for predators at the waterhole? I wouldn't say that they do it on purpose, but you do often see one giraffe will be drinking and the others will be looking around. But my personal opinion is that they're not necessarily. I think it's just pretty much everybody does the best that they can do. Right, sorry, we obviously had a little bit of a feed issue up there at Oldonia. It's a shame with giraffes drinking, always a treat to see. So it looks like we've nipped across to Jackie's Sabi house in the northern Sabi Sands. So Jackie, yeah, I don't really think they officially take turns, but inadvertently they will do. It's quite rare in my experience if a group of giraffe comes down that they will all drink at the same time. They are all relatively nervous creatures, and I don't get the sense that there's a sort of, right, guys, I'm going to have a drink, you watch my back, and then we'll swap. So you're quite blustery.
I feel it is a rosetted morning for us. So yes, let's see what we can find.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
My full name is Mtusi Tikani. Best part of my job is coming to see nature. Worst part of my job is logging. That's the worst thing ever, because you have to log amount of footage. You sit in front of that computer and yeah, you think of deleting the footage, but no, they need the footage. If I went to camel, probably a soccer player. I know some people don't believe me, but I'm very good, and I'm very fast.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight. We'll be
And you pretend like you're a salesman, eh?
Got no idea what's going on this reserve. Expecting the unexpected.
Are we stuck down there?
What am I trying to do?
Because we have another giant of Mabula.
That was incredible.
This is unbelievable.
It's going to be a spectacular afternoon.
Can you hear that? The wild is calling.
Oh, what are they called? I want to say keratinocytes, I think, which are the things that sort of create the hair, and they will have the melanin added to them from those melanocytes in the skin and cause those areas of fur to be darker or slightly different in every animal, just like a fingerprint. And if you've ever wondered what would happen if you shaved a giraffe or a leopard or a cheetah for that matter, you would still see that patterning on the skin. It won't be quite as obvious, but the skin will have the same patterning that you see on the coat due to the melanin in the skin. Hello, Mindy Tillipau. I'm glad you made it just in time to see these lovely giraffe at Oldonio. And Darkmane Lover, welcoming me back. Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be back. And yeah, first one of these I've done for, sure, probably a couple of months, but I have been very, very busy. It's peak stargazing season with generally clear skies over southern Africa at the moment, and I have been, I'm delighted to say, utterly slammed with work. I've travelled up to Tanzania, done training there. I've done training in about 3 different provinces over the last month, and a whole variety of events and some assessments for the astronomy qualification for guides as well. They're busy, busy, busy. No complaints from my side. Lovely to see all the greens up in East Africa at the moment. Everything here in Southern Africa very much drying out. Now we are coming into winter. I was lucky enough to spend the day driving through Kruger for simple entertainment's sake, not for work, a couple of days ago. And the bush is now getting very orange and very dry, and driving up, particularly up towards Letaba, where you go through the Mopani belt. Really enjoying all the beautiful colours. Those Mopani leaves are beginning to turn, and you've got, oh, hello, elephant. We've got the rich greens still, but there's oranges, there's yellows. It is a beautiful rainbow-like field driving through that Mopani felt at the moment. Very, very pretty colours this time of year. Beautiful light in the morning, bouncing off all of that oranging grass. That's really special. Saw lots of elephants. Did see one lioness from a distance as well. I think I saw a couple of nice herds of buffalo. But say nothing sort of truly staggering, but it was an absolute pleasure to drive through the park for 10 hours. Ivan, you're asking if light pollution is a concern for all nocturnal animals or only certain species. Ivan, is somebody who is very partial to the sanctity of the night sky and certainly is campaigning hard to keep it so and to improve it. I would say it affects all nocturnal animals, although a lot of them will be affected more strongly or in different ways. Not only does it affect the predator-prey relationship, but there are many, many examples. Could give you even far afield things like sea turtles. That's a big problem, whereby youngsters, when they hatch on the beach, they would normally head towards the ocean because that's the brightest part, with the starlight and the moonlight reflecting off the water. But with many cities and towns and areas of habitation being built close to water, that creates a big line of light pollution, and unfortunately thousands of sea turtles hatch and then move inland instead of out towards sea because they're following that band of light. And of course, just sort of insects in general. I'm sure all of you in the summer months have been subjected to a variety of winged things circling around lights and getting into your houses. It's nothing personal. They just think that your light is the moon because they orientate themselves by the moon. And if you actually watch slow motion footage of insects circling the light, you will always see that they circle it in such a way that their dorsal side, so their back, is facing the light, because that's what they would normally do to orientate themselves. They would keep the moonlight above their back. And now when they feel, as far as they're concerned, they've reached the moon, they just go around and around it because they're trying to keep the moon on their back, and that causes them to spiral uncontrollably. They get exhausted, they sometimes fly into the lights, and causes massive problems. So not to mention changes in activity periods. Yeah, there are many examples. So all of you, please consider the necessity of your outside lighting if you do need it. You can either have it on a a motion sensor, but please also try and avoid white and blue lights. Rather go for the softer yellowy orange colors, because that is less intrusive to the natural world. And try and make sure you don't waste light. If you need light outside, make sure it's covered so the light is pointed downwards or is reflected downwards instead of wasting light up into the sky. It's a massive problem, and so much energy and electricity wasted by illuminating the sky instead of the floor underneath. Dark Main Lover, yes, I have been incredibly busy and enjoying life, but one of the benefits I get to do what I love doing as a job as well as in my spare time. So no complaints, and so clear skies make me very, very happy. Wendy H, you're back home after 6 weeks in hospital. Wow, I'm so sorry to hear that. But I'm very happy to hear that you're back home and watching your favourite programme. We wish you a very speedy recovery. And I'm sure that beautiful visuals like this big bull elephant having a drink will be a great start to promoting a fast recovery from whatever reasons you're in hospital. I hope it is all sorted. And thank you for joining us. Jive Bunny, no, I have not been following the reintroduction of white storks in the UK that are nesting on the south coast. I wasn't even aware that they had been doing so, which is shocking admission. But I'm not very up to speed on United Kingdom wildlife stories and conservation stories at the moment. I will have to speak to my parents. My mum is a very keen birder, and they do live on the south coast in the Dorset region. Very difficult to say Dorset without giving it a Dorset accent. But that's great. Strangely, I haven't seen a white stork here in South Africa for probably a couple of years. All the other storks, no problems. But can't remember the last time I saw a white stork. They will have gone by now. They're migratory into this area. But I will certainly have a look into that, Jive Bunny. Thank you for the heads up. This big boy just having a rest. Benefits of having a tusk. Just rest that trunk upon it. Very, very heavy, of course. Got to carry that massive appendage around with you all the time. And a nice, good size left tusk. I was actually at Letaba in Kruger the other day and went into the fabulous Elephant Museum, which I encourage you all to do, where they've got the tusks and the sizes and mock-ups of the original magnificent 7 great tuskers in Kruger. I've seen some big tusked elephants in my time, but I can't really imagine what it would be like to see an elephant with tusks the size of the ones that are on the walls there. Now, I'm sure the photos don't do them justice, but they are some seriously impressive animals that have been around over the years. Cat fan, I'm glad we've given you some new information on the impact of artificial light on insects. It really is for everybody. I strongly urge everybody to consider it. It's something a lot of us don't think about, but until you go to a truly dark sky area, you kind of don't really appreciate it. The number of people, the amount of wasted lighting that goes on in the evenings. It is staggering, and it just constantly increases, and we don't really notice it because it happens gradually over a long period of time. But if you can ever go and visit a dark sky site and you can see the Milky Way steepling up over your head, it is really something quite special, something our ancestors grew up with, and was the origin of all these beautiful stories as to what the stars are and what they mean, and how so much of our life has been dictated by people's observations of the sky and the beautiful stories associated with it. And it's no coincidence. Cultures from all over the world have their own stories. Everybody enjoyed the night sky, and now it is reserved to those lucky few people who don't live in city centres or areas with poorly controlled lighting systems. And Benjamin, you're saying that in your town the street lights have been changed to less bright and more bird-friendly ones, and most are turned off during the night. That is excellent, excellent news. Certainly, if you ever get to go to an international dark sky reserve or a dark sky sanctuary or a dark sky park, these areas which are proclaimed as such by the organisation known as Dark Sky International, Those places are strictly regulated. They have to sign mandates to control light pollution. Any lighting that is there does have to be of the correct white balance and as minimalist as possible. And it's, yeah, as I said, it really is a beautiful thing to behold. I apologize if I pronounce this name incorrectly, but Wana Homogwe, you're asking, does the big elephant tusk hurt it? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. I'm guessing you mean possibly did it hurt when the other one snapped off? Because you can see his right tusk, or the left one as we're looking at it, has been broken off about halfway down. Um, that shouldn't have hurt. There's no nerve endings in the tip of the tusk. There are roots, certainly, that extend some way into the pulp of the tusk. I couldn't tell you exactly how far out from the skin line, or the lip line, if you like, that pulp extends, but tusks do break quite regularly, often amongst males that are being used for fighting, or if they've got some sort of mineral deficiency, perhaps they weaken. Um, so that wouldn't have hurt when it snapped from that sort of distance, and the elephant will learn to adapt accordingly. You can see he prefers to use his other tusk. You can see there is a little notch taken out of it close to the tip, because he's will constantly be using that one to break branches over and as a lever against vegetation, for digging and all the other things that elephants use their tusks for. If you're suggesting would it hurt if it impaled you on it, yes, would be my simple answer on that. I've no doubt that sometimes they do get some toothache, certainly. But it also doubles as a nice little resting point for one's trunk. Yeah, this big bull looks as he's just taking a few minutes to relax, and why not? It is Sunday after all. We, however, are going to take a trip way down southwest, and we're going to go to Tower Lodge in Madikwe. Ah, lovely. A crocodile warming himself in the winter sun. A couple of waterbuck bulls and a female, and some impala rams as well. Not to mention the grey heron and a small bird in the water, which is possibly a moorhen or a coot. I think a moorhen. I think I can see red on the beak. Yeah, it looks like a pair of common moorhens. Very pale crocodile, this one, compared to a lot that you see. I imagine it's just a genetic thing. Again, it will be controlled by the amount of melanin within the skin and on the scutes of the crocodile, which are those, a bit like on a tortoise as well, as those sort of bony plates that armor plate the crocodile. So darker patches, but a particularly fair one here, which I suppose might make it slightly more difficult in terms of thermoregulation with the lighter skin reflecting more heat than the darker skin, which will absorb the rays of the sun more efficiently. I may have a look into that. It'd be interesting to know whether lighter coloured crocodiles have been recorded spending more time basking in the sun to increase the body temperature than darker ones. However, remember, most of the absorption of those infrared rays of light from the sun are actually done by those little bony protrusions that you can see along the back of the crocodile, a bit like sort of stegosauruses, if you will, what are known as osteoderms, and they have a rich network of blood vessels flowing through them quite close to the skin, and it's through those that the crocodile gathers most of its heat and then circulates that warmer blood around the rest of the body. Now that looks like a red-knobbed coot just disappearing off the left there with the white beak. Yeah, but a very pale crocodile. Almost looks as if he's got stripes, like somebody's spray painted camouflage stripes down his side. Those two bands across his stomach, and those little, I don't know what you call them, little black stripes all down the tail. Mindy Tillapau, you're loving these multi-species sightings. I agree, it's always nice when you have multiple animals, particularly if you start seeing interactions between whether it be the same species or different species, but always fascinating to see how they live their life together. They're all integral parts of the same ecosystem at all, and it's their relationships between each other and their relationships with the vegetation and everything else that makes it all tick. I always say an ecosystem is like scaffolding on a building, and the more poles you have holding up your scaffolding, the more stable it is. And the more poles you remove, if species become extinct or conditions change where it no longer suits particular species and they leave that area or are forced to leave or are eradicated from it, your ecosystem becomes more and more fragile and is far more likely to topple over. Dark-maned lover, you're loving the heart-shaped nose of the waterbuck. Yes, it is one of their best features. Hopefully we'll get a close-up of one at some point, but if you've never seen one before, it is this perfect heart-shaped nose that they have. It is rather cute. Beautiful bottoms and beautiful noses. Head and tail. Dark-maned lover, you want to know what part of Africa are the biggest crocs found? Well, I'm sure Google will help us. I'll have a look, we'll check, but I would think East Africa, along the Mara River. I don't think there are many larger than those. The biggest croc ever recorded in Africa is, I think, around about the 6-meter mark, but I'd have to find out where. I know there have been some monsters in Zambia as well. I don't know if there is a particular area. All these elephants, suddenly a change of direction. Whether there is a particular area that is known for harboring the largest of the crocodiles. Look at the little one go. Good speed. I wonder what happened to cause them to all change their direction so quickly. Is there a bull in must approaching or something? Maybe some people? Noises from the lodge? Picasso, you're asking if there's any antelopes with a four-chambered stomach. Picasso, the majority of antelopes have four-chambered stomachs. That is more common than the alternative, the hindgut fermenters. So the impalas have a four-chambered stomach, so does the wildebeest, so does a springbok, so does a gemsbok, so does an eland. The majority of antelopes do have four-chambered stomachs. It's the most efficient way to deal with eating that fibrous material. All the elephants are going back from whence they came. Was that a young bull who came in that disturbed them? Now they're all relaxed.
For years, we've shared virtual wildlife. Now, let's experience it for real. I'm Lauren Arthur, and I'd love to show you my amazing home here in the Greater Kruger of South Africa. This 5-night journey is an exclusive connection to my piece of untamed Africa. I live here in these gorgeous landscapes surrounded by epic wildlife. The wild is calling, so come and join me.
South Africa's wild places are closer than you think because Federal Airlines brings them to you. From the calm of our FedAir lounge to the smooth boarding of our trusted fleet, we take care of the journey so you can enjoy the adventure. Our flights go beyond the ordinary, connecting you to South Africa's most remote and extraordinary locations. Federal Airlines, your gateway to the South African wild.
Out here, every wild moment counts, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you will not miss out. Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7, and you can even rewind if you have missed out on something. Enjoy the behind-the-scenes video clips as well as fireside chat, or get the early offers on our travel experiences. It's the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
That ability that birds have, or sometimes they do, to swallow little rocks and stones and grit, which sits in the gizzard and helps to grind up that material. So if anybody knows of any other birds that have a fermentation system in the stomach, I'd be interested to know, but that was a new one for me. Eddie, yes, there are hyenas in this area. We have, I believe, you do get spotted in Madikwe as well, but certainly very well known for its brown hyena population as well. The more western side of the country, you find more brown hyenas. So yes, chance of seeing both species here, although I personally have not seen one at this waterhole. But you never know. Okay, well, lovely to see some Ellies having a drink. Speaking of elephants, let's head over to Tembe Elephant Park on Maputo land on the eastern side of the country. Okay, no, it seems we are going to stay here and enjoy this beautiful reflection of a drinking herd of elephants. A little bit of a fracas there between the impalas. Of course, we are still just about still in rutting season, where all the males are fighting for dominance. A little bachelor group here of obviously males that were either unable to hold their own territory or have been ousted from their territory by another male. Still a little bit of intraspecific competition, a bit of infighting going on to keep those pecking orders in place. Lovely to see all these different sizes of elephants meandering away from the water. Run, little one, keep up. Small, medium and large on the left. Beautiful to see a big caravan of elephants going across the dam wall. I love the way they walk. They only lift one leg off the ground at any one time. Even when they're running or seemingly running, they are just power walking. Never more than 1 foot off the ground. Yet still capable of reaching best part of 40 kilometers an hour, which is faster than pretty much all of us can run. Just a little reminder. It's an elegant plod that an elephant has. An elegant elephant plod. Alright, let's try Tembe Elephant Park now. Classic Tembe scene of the elephant bulls. What's this one up to? Time for a mud bath? legs to stir up some of the sediment. All helps against protection from the sun, and particularly you see a lot of it being sprayed onto the underside of the animal, which helps to deal with all the radiation. About 70% of the heat that we feel is radiated back off the ground. So you'll see, generally speaking, elephants will spray more water onto their undersides than they will onto their top sides, and also explains why many antelope species and animals that live in very dry, arid, hot areas have white bellies, just to reflect that heat. Very effective way of dealing with temperatures, coupled with those massive ears. Fossils of woolly mammoths and things show that they had very small ears in comparison. Explains why African elephants have bigger ears than Indian elephants, because it's warmer here in Africa. Divergent evolution. Now time for the dry bath. We've done the wet bath, now time for the dry bath. Quite cool to see the way he's spooning the dust onto the tip of his trunk there with the front foot, or he was. Depositing it with incredible accuracy. Dark Mane Lover, I agree. Elephants are very therapeutic. With all the things we can see here, there are a few things that elicit such interest and intrigue just watching them go about their daily lives than the elephant. They are such unusual animals, and the way they do things, it's deliberate, powerful, yet gentle, and they are intriguing to watch, certainly. He's not giving himself a pretty good coating, it has to be said. Real NZ, you're also pointing out the scooping of the sand with the foot onto the trunk that we've seen, which is, it is something they do, but they don't often do it in my experience. You see now he's not bothering. Okay, there we go, a little bit of a kick there. But yeah, supremely intelligent animals, elephants. rather half-hearted attempt from this youngster. A great way to spend a Sunday afternoon, for the elephants and for us watching them. Have a good scratch. Often the way after a bit of a mud bath. Use those sand grains and the other sediment in the water as an exfoliant. If any of those parasites, ticks and other things living on the skin. Nature's body scrub.
This unfolds in front of you.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
My name is Takudzwa Panda Msesani. My scariest moment is when it happened twice. The other time I was with Cedric and the other time I was with Steve. And all those times it was a black mamba. My favorite meal in camp is gonna be burger and chips.
This is what they call a shambi, a family, a whole herd of elephants.
But nature is beyond amazing. Nature is just everything.
We'd love to hear from you. Questions, comments about biology, Africa, safari.
She's using her tail like a monkey. here with a male leopard.
But yeah, we saw quite a few. That was a good sighting. A couple of nice herds crossing the road. One that was adamant that they were going to be walking down the road towards us. Thankfully, everybody in the sighting was very accommodating. I was at the front, so I had to reverse back. So the people behind were also reversing back, but there were also elephants on both sides of the roads in the thick stuff, so we had to leave them enough space so that those elephants that wanted to cross could do so. You would have to be a little bit careful in Kruger, especially if you're in an elephant sighting and there are, or anywhere where you can do self-drive, not just Kruger, where there's elephants with multiple cars. If you need to move, everybody needs to be on the same page and make sure everybody, the elephants and other people, have got an escape route if necessary. Double P, you're asking if different generations of elephant stay together for life. Well, it depends on the sex, really. Remember that in elephant society or elephant social structures, you have the family groups that you see, the breeding herds, which are made up of the females and the young of both sexes. But then when the male elephants start becoming sexually mature, which will start any time from their sort of mid-teens, going over the next few years, they will develop greater and greater independence, and the males will start spending less and less time with the herd until such time that they're in their sort of mid to late teens, where they are now becoming sexually active. They will be pushed out if they don't go on their own accord by the matriarch and the other adult females there, nature's way of avoiding inbreeding. And then males lead a far more solitary life. They will form little bachelor groups, but they will also just sort of, particularly the older bulls, will wander around on their own, covering big distances. But say not uncommon to find groups of males like this, which will stay together a lot of the time, but they will also disappear on their own little missions as well. So whether or not some certain generations stay together, I certainly, even if they leave for very, very long periods of time, such as their memory, the parts of the brain responsible for that they will recognize individuals after years and years of being apart, particularly ones they grew up with. Different herds might split, but they will always remember one another and greet one another if the time comes. So I don't think we fully understand the dynamics of these bachelor herds. I think there's a lot more connection between these males than perhaps we give them credit for. You can always see them interacting with each other, socializing with each other, working out the hierarchies, young ones and old ones together, older ones teaching the youngsters, young ones helping the older ones that might be struggling to feed, not by necessarily putting food into their mouths, but just assisting, really. Safety in numbers, comfort in terms of sociality. But you do get your true nomads as well. Some bulls will wander thousands of miles, thousands of kilometers as they get older, traversing country boundaries where there are no fences to stop them. Pat W, I assume you're referring to why that one we were watching, his ear had a rip in it, often frayed, very normal to see that in elephants. You're asking, is that natural or from an attack? It most likely is natural. It's not impossible that it was done through an altercation with another animal, but remember the skin on that elephant's ear is incredibly thin compared to the rest of it. So the majority of that skin can be up to a couple of inches thick, 1.5 inches, maybe even 2 inches thick. It's a massive suit of armor, and that helps to insulate the body heat. But those ears are paper thin, only a few millimeters, to facilitate the thermoregulation with fanning of the ears and the blood vessels close to the surface on the back side of the ears. So they get tattered, they get caught on vegetation, lots of thorns, lots of spines that can cause rips. They can get, those sort of rips can get, I wouldn't say infected, but they can also sort of be eaten away by particular bacteria and things in there as well. So it is very much, you can see there those sort of frayed edges. That is just, dare I say, wear and tear. I suppose quite literally wear and tear in this case. You know, beginning that you're asking about that big tree next to the water, I'd need to have a close-up view of it to be sure, but my gut from looking at it in the past tells me that that is a weeping bourbine, a Scotia brachypetalia, I believe. But so without looking at the leaf structure up close and making sure, I wouldn't bet my house on it, but certainly it's the silhouette that it casts, what we call the general impression of shape and size, suggests that it's very likely a weeping bourbine. The Natal mahogany has a very similar leaf structure, but much larger leaves and darker leaves. But they're both compound leaves, meaning that one leaf is divided into sort of has a central stalk of that leaf, which we call the rachis, and then coming off that stalk are the pinnae, the actual sort of leaflets. Getting a close-up look. Yeah, I'm 95% sure that's a weeping... Oh no, is it a jackberry? It's very hard to see on a picture. Yeah, it looks like a compound leaf. I'd still say lightly a bourbine. The leaflets do look quite large. Yeah, I'm going bourbine. So if you see those leaves, that even though if we see that one that's hanging down just left of center, you can see it's got 3 leaflets on either side and 1 at the end. It's what we call imparapenately compound leaf. So that is one leaf made up of, in this case, 7 different leaflets. But now I think about it, does bourbine have a terminal leaflet? Or is it parapenately compound? The bark looks like bourbine though. And the shape of the leaflets look like they're slightly asymmetrical leaf bases or leaflet bases, also suggests bourbine. But there are of course many other trees. Cape ash is another possibility. I'm going to stick to my guns until proven otherwise. It's not impossible. It could be an Natal mahogany, I suppose, Penelope. The shape doesn't look quite right to me for Natal mahogany. If it is a weeping bourbine, let's assume that it is. That name comes from the fact that it produces these beautiful sort of reddish purpley pink flowers that secrete huge amounts of nectar to the point where they literally almost drip nectar. That refers to the weeping part, and then the bourbine referring to the fact that the seeds were used by the Afrikaners and in history. They were roasted, those seeds, and then ground up to make a coffee substitute. So bourbeen is farmer's bean.
We have just had our efforts paid off.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
My name is Takudzwa Panda Msesani. I really want to film an artwork, and it has been my goal. I'll be just keeping my eyes open. The worst driver is Jen. He's driving, yeah. You gotta be holding on back in there, yeah? Like in bumps, and I mean, it happens when, these things happens when you're actually going for animals usually. But then, yeah, he's driving, yeah, you gotta put your seatbelt.
If you love watching Wild Earth, here's a little tip. You'll gain access to the channel ad-free. You can rewind and rewatch sightings and gain access to our live Tuesday safaris. There's also behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and every safari live episode, whenever it suits you. It's just the best way to connect with nature.
Yes, the bourbeen doesn't have a terminal leaflet, so if that one did have a terminal leaflet, it's possible that it was just one. There were two and one's broken off, making it look like there was just one there. Then possibly Natal mahogany. A good job, Penelope. I'm going to stop talking about the tree now because I'm doubting myself, and there's no way to be sure now. Ella, you're asking if aggression in male elephants is linked to sexual competition. Pretty much, yeah. Elephant males are pretty docile. You don't normally see too much infighting in groups like this. They have the intelligence levels to settle disputes due to visual displays, olfactory communication, general respect for one's elders. So if two do come to blows, it will normally be two equally matched elephants in terms of size, and it will tend to be, as you've said, over sexual competition, mating rights. So it normally happens if a female is in if she is in estrus, she will release pheromones into the air, and they'll be diffused through her dung and through her urine. That will attract the interest of males. It may stimulate some males to actually enter the musk state, that state of heightened levels of testosterone in preparation for mating, although older bulls might spend half of the year in must anyway. They will all sort of gravitate towards that female, or wherever that scent is emanating from. Young bulls will just give way to larger bulls, causing them to come out of must potentially very, very quickly, within a few hours. But two equally matched bulls will potentially end in blows. And it can be fatal. Those fights can get vicious. So there should be something hiding in that little hole in the back there. And you see, now I'm becoming worryingly obsessed with this tree. I'm beginning to doubt myself, Penelope, and I think you might be right. It could well be a Natal mahogany. Well, there's only one thing for it. I shall have to take a trip to Tembe Elephant Park and go and investigate for myself. That's a good excuse. Erica Oldno, you're saying that you don't think it's Cape Ash. You've seen a few in Cape Town and you haven't seen any flowers on that tree at Tembe. Well, all of these things are pointing towards the Natal mahogany shout. So bravo, Penelope Kenyon, bravo. But yes, it was that terminal leaflet that made me also agree with you. But if we've never seen those flowers, that would also suggest that to be the case. And we are in KwaZulu-Natal, so Natal mahogany would make sense. I love the way they scratch their eyes with their trunks. Mr. Nick Power 04, you're asking, could a young bull fight go as far as one of them being expelled from the herd? I don't know about it expelled. If you're referring to before they have officially sort of left their natal herd, their breeding herd, if they're getting too boisterous, they might be driven out earlier than perhaps others by the adult females. But you do find that some of them also just sort of go off. They kind of get attached to some big brothers or a group of males, and they might go off for a week or so. It's almost like a field trip, and then they'll come back. In a situation like this, I suppose that one could potentially be sort of ousted if they are considered a problem animal by the rest of the group. But it's normally settled, say, through posturing, through mutual respect, and if one gets a bit of a hiding, he may decide to go off on its own because, say, not all bull elephants hang out in groups like this. It is just as normal to see an individual on his own as well. Dark Mane, a good question. You want to know whether elephant bull comes into must for the first time. Is it more of an extreme effect than when it happens in later age? Honestly, Dark Mane Lover, I have no idea. I don't know whether it's, I would imagine, and I'm just using logic here, that when they do come into must for the first time, there's probably less testosterone being deposited into the body, and it sort of increases as that animal gets older and becomes more dominant and becomes more sexually mature. Whether or not it's a question of sort of tra-la-la-la-la, wallop, big lump of testosterone, what do I do with it? I'm not 100% sure, but we do know for a fact that young elephants are less capable of dealing with those hormones, that without the presence of big bulls to suppress it and to sort of keep them in line, then young bull elephants in must can become quite a terror because they can't deal with it very well. They can't channel that aggression and that increased testosterone. They can get very aggressive. The classic case, which has been mentioned many times, is what happened in the Pilanesberg National Park. There were no big bull elephants there. The younger males were all coming into must and causing absolute chaos. They're pushing over cars, killing rhinos, and becoming, as I said, terrors. And then with the introduction of some big mature bulls from Kruger, everything was fixed within the space of about a month. Because those bulls just went in there and they cracked the whip. The young bulls were instantly submissive to them, subservient to them, and it is that, or it was their influence that controlled the must itself. So I think it sort of comes with experience, the ability to channel those hormonal changes, but it would be interesting to know whether or not from a young age the amount of testosterone is less, or if it, and that it increases over their lives. There is, of course, this theory that when they are in must and the must gland swells up, that puts pressure on the base of the tusk and causes toothache, for want of a better word, as well. Whether that would be more severe if your tusks are larger, as I think it was it Wama who asked a little bit earlier about that? That might have something to do with discomfort. If you've got particularly large tusks, perhaps when you come into must, your must gland has more of an effect on the roots. Right, I think we're going to head over to Hesk and catch up with our cheetahs. little cubs are having a drink. How beautiful. I'm trying to think how old these cubs must be now. They're just over a month. Trying to recall when they were born. Very special. Just checking back, assuming this is Tammy, which I'm guessing it is, which is the name of the cheetah. I think it was 30th of April, by the looks of it, that we got the news. So what are we now? Yeah, so about somewhere between 5 and 6 weeks, I suppose. You can see that very established white mantle of fur, giving them the honey badger look. Very, very obvious now, but absolutely beautiful. A little bit sorry for the one on the bottom there. It's a little bit squashed by its brothers and sisters. I think on average those mantles will start to disappear somewhere between 3 to 4 months of age. Of course, it is often considered some sort of mimicry of a honey badger to potentially ward off a predator. It may also just help with the reflection of the sunlight off the grass, again mimicking that sheen that you get in the open grasslands where cheetah generally hang out. So it may again double as some form of camouflage, but very, very vulnerable out in the wild. Erica, you are confirming 5.5 weeks for these little ones, so that would make sense. Yeah, I think I've got the date as the 30th of April. That we got the news. Those little feet. Oh, one's lost out. The one on the right's got a good idea. He seems to be quite chilled there. The other three jostling for position. Upside down, stuck on his back.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
Wild Earth has launched a special fundraising drive for our non-profit, the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. We're raising funds to source, create, and showcase thousands of untold stories. Stories that spark real action in conservation and social impact. Visit our website to donate and explore how you can become a founding donor.
My full name is Maxine Gaines. Most people that know me really well call me Max. I'm a mum. I have 2 boys. One is 16 years old and one is 14 years old. I'm a very, very proud mama of my 2 boys. I've just always been passionate about leopards. I'm passionate about their conservation. I'm just passionate about everything to do with leopards. I love them.
Hyenas love pathing.
But absolutely tiny. If any of you were lucky enough to see, I know there is video of them actually giving or being given birth to. Absolutely tiny, weighing no more than a couple of 100 grams. Very, very small, which is an adaptation for mum to not have to carry around heavy fetuses, of course, while she's chasing after prey whilst pregnant. And then they grow very fast as well. They reckon 45 to 50 grams per day increase in weight, which is quite a lot. Brenda in the UK, you're asking, how did cheetah evolve to be so fast and what were they adapting to? Well, I think there are 2 schools of thought as when it comes to predators. You either have speed or you have strength, and most things went for strength. The cheetah went for speed. Why they chose to go down that route, hard to say for sure, but you can't have everything doing the same thing, otherwise you'll have too many things that occupy the same niche. And of course their specialist habitat is open areas, otherwise because you can't run quickly in heavily vegetated areas. So they have lots of adaptations to make this possible. That long thick tail to act like a rudder. You can see the claws on the feet. Of course they are non-protractable claws, they're always out like a dog. You can see even those 3 lobes on the back pad are very, very defined, quite heavily ridged. They act like tread on a tyre to give them better grip. Small and slim compared to lion and leopard. Let's look at the size of the head, the size of the teeth, and an incredibly flexible spine to facilitate that arching movement, and long legs as well. So it's a constant arms race evolution. Things you're chasing are fast, you need to get faster. And Shireen, you're saying this is your favourite family. Unsurprisingly, look how cute they are. Riley, you're asking why cheetahs have such a low genetic diversity. Well, there are some schools of thought that say if it wasn't for human interference and conservation efforts, that cheetahs would have been extinct by now. As I said, you've got 2 ways of looking at it from a hunting perspective, power or speed. Cheetah went with speed, but it just seems that that is the least efficient way of doing it, and power wins. And unfortunately, a lot of cheetahs have been killed by this one falling asleep in between the legs. Have been killed by other predators, by lion, by hyena, by leopard, by wild dogs. There are plenty of other factors, of course. It's a lack of space. Cheetahs roam over very large areas. We have restricted that movement, which has put them in greater risk. They are forced to live in game reserves with lots of lions and leopards and hyenas and things. And if they're not restricted to game reserves, they will generally hunt what is easiest to hunt. That's often livestock. That puts them into direct competition is the wrong word. What's the word I want? Conflict with farmers and agricultural companies that don't want things eating their livestock, so they've been removed. So lots and lots of reasons to just meant the population is very, very small. They've also been attempted to be domesticated over the course of history. It was a sign of, it's not necessarily royalty, but certainly of can't think of the word, but a sign that you were rich and affluent if you owned a cheetah. So for all of these reasons, there are not many of them, so their breeding has become less widespread, hence the bottleneck in genetic diversity, and that is a big problem because you need a good diversity for those traits to be passed on, for the best traits to be passed on. Sandy Franklin, you can't believe you got to see cheetahs being born. Yes, I also saw the footage. It's amazing. They look like little tiny guinea pigs. That's actually what it reminded me of. I once saw when I was a kid my guinea pig giving birth. And that's what they kind of look like, just slightly larger versions of birthing guinea pigs, but an incredible thing to see. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen an animal giving birth, any animal giving birth out in the wild. I've seen impalas that have been minutes old that are still lying in a pool of afterbirth and being licked clean by mum. I've seen breached buffalo calves which have died because they haven't been able to get out, but I don't think I've ever seen an animal emerge out in the wild. So very, very special to be able to see that footage here at the Hudspot Endangered Wildlife Species. Wamakumoko, you're asking why does the back foot look like it's broken? I don't think it looks like it's broken, or as far as I know, it's not broken. I think it's probably just a weird camera angle. Don't forget she's trying to straddle a couple of young cubs that are feeding from her there as well, but to my knowledge there's no issue with any of her back feet, but I don't know Tammy's history particularly well, whether she had a pre-existing injury there. But as far as I know, there's nothing untoward. I love the way there's one at the back. So no, I've had enough. I'm going to lie here. Potentially a dangerous place to lie. But I do love those tracks. You can see on that bottom of the two back feet, that back pad, and those almost spiky edges to the pad at the back. Always see when you see the tracks, because I did get to see cheetah tracks quite a lot out in Mabulla. Of course I saw cheetah at Mabulla only a few weeks ago. I'd forgotten about those. That's shocking. But there they've got the most beautiful teardropped shaped toes, and that back pad is very distinctive. It's very obviously ridged for grip. I always think it looks a little bit like a bat symbol when I see it on the ground. We've had some lovely sighting of the cheetah there at the Buller. We didn't have any long sightings. We sort of bumped into them a couple of times. Got to watch them. I think the last sighting we had of them walking across the open plains there at sunset, that was probably the highlight. The beautiful backlight against them and the beautiful orange colours of the grass. That was very, very special. Sort of watched them until twilight fell, and then of course we left them alone. I think we did go back a little bit later with the infrared light and watch them walking down the road for a time. They're beautiful animals. But they don't half move, those cheetahs at Babulla. We'll see them in the morning on one side of the reserve, and by the afternoon they're on the other side of the reserve. But we saw them feeding on a kill at one point. They were eating an impala. I expected them to still be very close by the next day because they were very, very full. But no, they'd still traversed half of the reserve by the time they were found again the next morning. Hey little one, oh look, we can see your tear lines. Still a little bit unsteady on their legs, so. Was walking over all of the brothers and sisters and then lying on one. Dark Main Lover, honestly, to the answer to your question is that I'm not sure, on the assumption that they are going to be released into the wild. Let's hope so. At some point you're asking how will they be prepared and how will they know how to hunt. Obviously in this situation, in a captive situation or rehabilitation situation like this, it's very hard for mum to teach them out in the wild. They will often bring in or bring back sort of live prey and the cubs can practice. I doubt that's going to be possible in a situation like this, so I honestly am not sure, Dark Main Lover, what HESC's policy is on that, how much of it is going to be left up to instinct, or whether it'll be a sort of a soft release somewhere. The other biggest problem you're going to have is, will they be lion savvy or other predator savvy? Hyenas and lions, of course, if they catch a cheetah, they will kill it. And it's quite hard to get cheetah for your reserve that have had lion experience and know how to act around them and how to avoid conflict where possible. So yeah, I honestly don't know, Dark Main Lover. But it'll be very interesting to monitor their progress, and I will actually see if I can find out what HESC's plan is in terms of that. Mahesh, you're saying it must be tough to be a mother cheetah. Yes, it must be, particularly if you're a mother cheetah who apparently at one point has had 9 cubs. Imagine dealing with that.
I met this remarkable rhino bull, whose name is Samson, last year in a place of extraordinary beauty, history and story. I'm going back there to see him in October, and I think you should come with me to his mysterious mountain fastness.
My full name is Maxine Gaines. Best part of the job, gosh, I just love everything about guiding. I love being able to observe animal behavior and animals behaving naturally. So for me, that's by far the best part of the job. And so what we do here at Wild Earth is develop those connections with the people that are viewing and maybe just light a little spark that says, you know what, I want to be involved in protecting this ecosystem.
Step into the heart of Africa from the comfort of your home.
Female leopard tracks over here.
Join our expert guides for a live 3-hour safari where every moment is real, unscripted, and unforgettable. Ask questions.
Animals rely on their senses.
Share your thoughts and be part of the experience as we explore together. Safari Live.
Out here, every moment counts. As a Wild Earth explorer, you won't miss a thing. Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7 and rewind if you want to catch something again. Enjoy behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and early access to travel offers. It's the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
To it, where the migration did come through at certain times of the year, but no vulturine guinea fowl in that area. Didn't see helmeted, but actually much prettier birds than they're often given credit for. Because they're relatively common and they're relatively sort of chicken-like, I think they often get dismissed, but those little sort of polka dot feathers that they've got really are beautiful up close. I've also grown to appreciate guinea fowl because they do enjoy eating ticks as well, and you can often tell if you're walking in an area where there aren't any guinea fowl versus where there are, your chances of picking up multiple ticks are much, much higher. It has been quite a bad few months for pepper ticks, certainly. Been hammered recently. Tick bites are the worst. You can't even see those little pepper ticks and they itch, and the more you scratch, the more they itch. All you can really do is leave them alone, but they can take days, sometimes weeks before they disappear. And they do have a tendency to find their way into places where you wouldn't want ticks. It's a good idea to check yourself thoroughly, particularly if you've been walking. I learned a long time ago that it was a big problem. A lot of people still like to walk in shorts in the summer months. I will always walk in longs if I'm doing game walks and things, just in order to try and protect against ticks best I can. But sorry, we had a bit of an issue with the feed there, so we popped back down to Nkoro in the Sabi Sands, and what a beautiful aggregation of animals. Impalas, zebras, wildebeest, all sorts going on here. A lot of standing around going on between the zebras and the wildebeest. Bit of a barging, get out of my way moment there. Take it out on the young one. Classic head-to-tail stance that you often see zebras taking, making use of one another's fly swats. You can really see why it's known as a dazzle of zebra when they're all clumped together like that. Very difficult to distinguish one from another. Very confusing from a predator's standpoint. If you were trying to isolate a youngster, the way the young one is sandwiched in between all the adults there. Of course, if they were all running together as a group, that is very distracting on the eyes with all of those stripes moving in different directions. Makes it very difficult for a predator to predict trajectory and speed. One on the right, just its sort of back right leg cocked a little bit, just kinked, taking some weight off the right hand side of the body. But a common sight now we're coming into winter to see lots of animals clustered around these pumped waterholes. Perfect area for them, lots of nice open grassland, good visibility, plenty of food, accessible water. It's often one of the best ways to do safari in the winter, just come and hang out by one of the waterholes and wait for the animals to come to you. That's Simon, you're asking why there's no competition between herbivores when they're competing for the same water and similar vegetation. Do you think there is an awareness that there are more than enough resources? I think so, to some extent. Also, it doesn't really pay to compete with somebody else. You're not paying attention. And a better chance that you will be singled out by a predator because you're not watching out for your surroundings. What we're seeing here is a perfect example as well of three herbivores that would be considered what we call facultative grazers or facultative feeders. So yes, impalas eat leaves as well, but they will rather have grass if there is grass available. And all three of these, the impala, the wildebeest and the zebra, eat different parts of the grass. So even though they're all eating grass, they're not in direct competition for the same parts of the plant. So zebras will eat the more fibrous parts, the top parts, the inflorescence of the grass. The wildebeest like the shorter grass, and then the impalas like the really, really short grass because they can get to it because they've kind of got a split lip, which allows, and a more pointy muzzle, just allows them to get even closer to the ground. You can see how close to the ground these two are feeding. So yes, they all eat vegetables, but they eat different parts of the vegetables. So they actually almost sort of help each other, hence facultative grazing. So the zebras ultimately sort of prepare the grass for the wildebeest, who then prepare the grass for the impalas. But competition between different species you don't see all that often. As someone said earlier, a lot of it's sexual competition, mating rights, holding territories between specific members of the same species. Generally speaking, it's not worth getting into a fight.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
It's interesting just to see or to note the different morphology between the animals as well. You can see how the wildebeest have the longer front legs, so they have a sloping back from front to back, whereas the impala, you may have noticed that young male who walked past impala, here we go, look at this one, they have a higher back legs than front legs, so their back slopes in the opposite direction. For the wildebeest, that stronger or longer legs in the front half just makes it more efficient in terms of traversing long distances, of course traditionally a migratory species, whereas the impala far more sedentary. They don't stray too far from water, and very, very athletic, can leap 3 meters high, 12 meters long, which a wildebeest is unable to do. So again, just little differences in the way that they are designed, the way that they have evolved, allow them to occupy specific niches and to behave in certain ways under certain conditions. Just the subtle diversity of nature is pretty incredible. I suppose zebra somewhere in between. And there's a warthog. That's a nice sort of closure. We're running out of time now. We started with a warthog and ending with some warthogs. Only a few minutes left, Wildlife Lady. I'm glad you enjoyed the show today. Got some lovely sights. Drinking giraffe, interesting elephant behaviours, quite a lot of general game. And of course, baby cheetahs. You could argue what we were saying before with that facultative grazing, that we've got another level of the grazing here with the warthogs. They will push over the roots of or push over the grass and actually feed on the roots themselves. That impala at the back, that female, I wonder if she's not chewing on a bone or something. Looking for calcium and phosphorus. You can see she's got something in her mouth. See how the camera is getting buffeted by the wind. But yeah, I think she might be practicing a little bit of osteophagia there, eating of bones. Characteristic crackle of the oxpeckers, but plenty of oxpeckers in and amongst this big group of animals. And possibly a pregnant zebra on the left as well. You can see that she's a rather bulging stomach. A lot of heavily pregnant zebras at the Bulla. They will give birth at any time of the year, but peak during the summer. It's been hard for a youngster coming out in the winter though, with minimal grass available to them. But unfortunately the time has come. We've only got sort of less than a minute or so to go. So thank you everybody for joining us, and thank you all for your comments and your questions. Always gets the brain whirring, and I'll see if I can find out some answers to some of those questions that I wasn't too sure about. And don't forget to stick around for the sunset safari this evening. But whatever your plans are for the rest of your Sunday, whether it involves a Sunday roast, lying on the sofa, watching some sport, or going for a nice afternoon walk, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks again for joining us, and we will do this again tomorrow from 12:30 until 2:30. So thank you very much. Welcome to Safari Spotlight. Today we will be going on an adventure through some of South Africa's most beautiful wildlife havens. Our locations are unique, they are diverse, and they are at the forefront of ecotourism and conservation. The landscapes are spectacular, the wildlife is incredible, and we will be looking at all the interesting flora and fauna and generally bathing ourselves in Africa's beauty.